How's everyone?
Hey, good.
Pretty good. Let me get my hair done. Hold on, let me get my hair done real quick.
Put a little saliva. Put a little saliva on top, dog.
Hold on. I just got a haircut, but she messed up, so
Fresh ass food.
uh,
Too fresh.
just let me know whenever you're ready.
It's ready, bro. It's rolling. It's rolling, my brother.
Let's go.
Let's
Let's go.
go. Let's go.
So let's
Uh-huh.
go. Let's start it. Let's start it.
Well, introduce the guest, brother.
To the listeners.
What's that?
I said you can go ahead and introduce yourself to the listeners.
Oh, okay.
And
Yeah,
to
let's put this other bud in here. It's nice to meet you guys. Dom, me and Pedro go way back. I appreciate you asking me to be on here today. I don't think I'm anybody special. I think that with anybody that we can recognize good qualities in certain people that are close to us that we may admire. So
Mhm.
I feel the same way with Pedro. There's a lot of good things that he does that I think is pretty cool and that I admire. And, he has that same respect towards me. With certain things that I have going on that he thinks that I excel at or whatnot. So happy to be on here today and hope that I can bring some value. I don't think that I'm a know-it-all or that I have all the answers, but whatever I might say that can connect or resonate with that one person that kind of makes that switch in their head.
Yeah.
That's what I'm looking for today.
No, yeah. I mean, I disagree with you a little bit, bro, on the you're not anybody special because of the fact that I think that each of us have important stories and we have important things that we probably sometimes should share to the world, bro. That, as you mentioned, will flick a switch in somebody's head and maybe motivate them or kind of just make them think about their life a little different and maybe like you mentioned, light up that switch that could basically turn their life around, bro. Like each of us have something that's individually special to us, bro, or something that we could actually share with the world that, as you mentioned, could basically spark someone's imagination or spark someone's motivation to change their life around, bro. So I'm just
Right.
lucky, and I'm grateful that you've taken the time out of your busy day, bro, to give us an opportunity to just learn a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, definitely. And I agree, everyone has that component of them that makes them special. I guess what I try to relay is that um, and any accomplishments that somebody might see, I don't have anything that's different than what anybody else has.
Mm-hmm.
And, we all have the same 24 hours in a day. That's what we all share in common.
Yeah.
So,
Could I add a little? Could I add a little something? I know on the last podcast with my friend Gary, I talked a lot more than the guest, so I wanted to, you know what I mean. But I did wanted to add. I was talking to my supervisors at work and the managers, and I talked to them. They're like, "Why didn't you apply for the LDP, right? For leaderships to develop leaders?" And something that you said right now, Dominique. That kind of like I was basically telling them the same thing, and then one of the guys is like, no, because everybody could bring something to the table, and I was like, you know what, you're right, because you, Dominique, and Alex, like we might have different traits, but we can propel each other to excel each other to the next level. Maybe we don't. None of us knows it all, but if we stay a student, then definitely we can keep on growing and excelling. You know what I mean? And that's something that you guys both. And that's something that you guys both have. You know, uh, for the listeners, I know you since we were kids, and I'll let you share the stories, and I'll let you go on with that.
oh, for me and you, Pedro?
For me and you, but
so,
also also a little bit about yourself and
Yeah.
and
Yeah, so, that's trying to figure out where to start at. So I'm trying to make sure, see where I can start to where it like intertwines together. But I guess I'll start. I go by Dominique. 26 years old. Right now I live in Vegas. I'm from Cali, SoCal. Riverside area, about an hour south of LA area. So yeah, I grew up there most of my life. I moved around. Always ended up coming back to Cali. Grew up always normally in a bigger household. There's been times where there's over 10 of us in a two-bedroom apartment or whatever the case is. So, humble beginnings.
Yeah.
Um, I've lived a childhood of experiencing not having a lot of money and having a struggle. And I've also experienced the other half of stableness and knowing where your next meal is going to come from and not worrying about the water being shut off or the rent not being paid. So growing up, it was kind of cool to see the two different spectrums and being able to experience both sides of it. Going to a school where things weren't as good, and I ended up getting jumped at some point, and then that happening to allow me to go to a better school where the kids that go there come from pretty good backgrounds, and you know the crime rate at that school isn't as high. So it's kind of a unique situation seeing both spectrums as I was growing up. But kind of that's how I kind of plugged in with Pedro at some point. Was my grandfather did like a lot of, I wouldn't say charity work, but maybe volunteer work. Trying to help out some of the kids in Skid Row in LA that were less fortunate, and that also allowed me to see a side that was worse than my lows. Something that was lower than my lows. So through doing that program, I met a lot of people, and Pedro happened to be one of them. And a couple of people we know, like Lalo, Levy, some of those guys we all met during that same time. So that's how me and Pedro crossed paths, and me and Pedro kind of kept in contact, and we became like accountability partners. We started reading the Bible together because reading has always been hard for me as far as the having the discipline to do it every day. So when it would come to the Bible, I would have like my phases where I would be consistent, and then I would have other phases where I would fall off, and that's where me and Pedro plugged into where we would start reading to each other. So it kind of helped that it was more like that running mate and that accountability partner. So after plugging in with him, pretty consistently, there came a time where he needed some help, and I sometimes I look at things black and white. So he needed help, and I seen that we could help him to an extent. We couldn't give him everything he needed or what he was looking for,
Mm-hmm.
but we can help him with a basic need at least. So through there, we ended up sharing households and having like a sibling relationship from that point. Being together every day, sharing a room, and growing together and seeing each other at different phases of our life. To where all phases come to an end at some point. So it became a moving phase of stepping forward, and Pedro was able to get to where he was looking to be, and then at some point I was able to get to where I was looking to be. So yeah, I mean, I hope that gives a little bit of background or understanding to somebody listening for the first time that might not know.
Yeah, I have two questions, bro. One being, I know a little bit of what it's like to go from like a city or go from a certain environment or situation where, like you were talking about and speaking upon, where you're going to this school, right? And everybody's from the same neighborhood that they kind of know each other, and there's a bunch of gangs going around, and there's always conflict. There's always a lot of things going on. For somebody that's always lived in the same place, a lot of people might not relate to this. But can you explain a little bit on how it is to go from a place where it's just a bunch of chaos, a bunch of fighting, like you mentioned, a bunch of crime, a bunch of people getting jumped, to a place where it's a little bit more like it's a little bit more mellow, calm. Can you explain a little bit on how it is to go from such a chaotic, environment to a more simpler one, and what kind of like trauma are you left with as you're moving into an environment that's not as chaotic?
Yeah, that's a great question, bro. I would say from a young age, I was exposed to that more stable environment at first. Um, so it was weird. I never felt that culture shock when I was exposed to the bad areas. I'm not sure why I didn't feel that. I guess because any family members that we visited were in different areas that were more diversified and higher crime rates. So I guess between living at my grandma's house, she has a nice house and nice neighbors and nice front lawn, pool in the backyard, and then going to the good school across the street. At the same time, I had a grandma that lived down the street. She's in the ghetto, and cousins that are in the ghetto or in LA. So I guess being exposed to that simultaneously is what helped not bring so much of a culture shock to me. So where when I was on my own with my parents, and we had to go to those different schools, I was prepared for it because also having cousins that grew up in those areas, and I go over to their house, and I know once I go over there, they want to fight, and it wasn't even on like fighting over a disagreement or anything like that. It was like Dominique's coming over. We're about to throw hands. I'm about to see where his chest is at, type of deal.
Damn.
So being tested like that through family members, they call it tough love, but it really did help to where when I was in those other areas where things weren't as good and higher crime rate and schools wasn't as good, I knew how to hold my own. So what I will say is, I will say that there's a certain type of joy in that lower income area. I think J. Cole talks about it in one of his songs. He says there's beauty in the struggle.
Yeah.
So, being in that type of area, seeing that there's so many people to relate to, and they all have a different mindset of surviving, looking out for themselves, and finding the smallest bit of happiness. So, what was that happiness to me and Pedro when we were down low? That would probably be a Friday night. Let's say we had a good day at work. We used to work together doing some deliveries. So let's say we got like an extra $30 in tips. We were able to go to Gator Brothers and grab some food and then do a movie night. Like being able to relate that to the people that went to that same school, that's what they're looking to do on a Friday night. Yeah. What's bad about it is, looking over your shoulder, trying to be plugged in, because you really got to know every new event that's happening week to week. Yeah. So, when was the last gang fight? What are they plotting right now? Who's looking for who? Is there a race on race war right now? So stuff like that would get really like a paranoia type of vibe. Mm-hmm. So that was always hard to adjust to, and it's just trying to stay safe. Like I walked a pretty decent amount to school, so being paranoid when cars are driving real slow up on me, not knowing what their intentions are, not knowing who's trying to follow me. So between going from that and then being at the better school is cool because it feels more comfortable. You're not looking over your shoulder. For me, at least, there was a bit more cockiness because I knew that if somebody was looking for issues, I knew that I was ready for them, basically. Like, I felt like I had all this pain and this anger from these other areas I came out of, that if somebody wanted issues with me in that nice area, that it was going to be a mistake on their end because I had too much built up in me. I was ready to let loose. I would say motivating in those areas, seeing kids my age get really nice cars and, events that they were doing, their parents making good money, and just hearing about things you never heard about before, like whether it was wine tasting or, weekly trips to Havasu or Catalina, not really being able to relate to that kind of stuff, but being in the middle to where you can see it and you're like, okay, that's nice. That's a place I want to get to. Yeah. So I would say it was a pretty cool balance for me, but, there's people that experience it in different ways. There can be that middle income family that's in a really nice phase of their life. Everything goes bad and now they're in the low income area and that's the whole culture shock. Then it could be the people in the low income area moving up to the middle income area, and either it's like a lottery ticket to them, and they either mess it up by keeping those same ways that they were when they were low income, or they end up taking advantage of it and excelling, being exposed to those new environments. So I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of relate with what you're saying because when I was in my elementary and middle school years, same thing. I was like literally deep in South Central, and as you mentioned, I had to be aware of my surroundings. I had to be aware of who I was messing with, who I was talking with, where I was walking, what streets I was walking. Basically, I just kind of had to be aware of all of that. And then when I got to high school, I ended up going to a high school in a much safer, I would say, middle class to upper middle class family. And so it was a little bit different for me because, as you mentioned, when you're in high school, you see, 17-year-olds pulling up in the nicest cars, right? Or sometimes you get me? Like I had a flip phone. I had a BlueBerry. Like I don't even remember like those big squared phones. I had them all the way to like
Yeah,
about my junior year. Like I literally got my first like touch phone like in my senior year, and everybody already had a fucking iPhone like in ninth grade. So at the same time, like also when you're coming from like those lower income like communities, sometimes I mean it's excellent. I like the way that you thought about it, but sometimes like you coming from like a low income family, you're a little bit jealous. You feel me? Like of course like you don't want to feel that way, but it's just kind of like fuck, dude. Like I wish I had that. You get me?
No,
yeah,
and with that being said, like we met through Skid Row, right? We went
Mm-hmm.
through Skid Row. That was where the after school program was. That's where I met Dominique. And obviously when I went through what I was going through, my situation, Dominique's mom took me in. Well, Dominique obviously Dominique told his mom, and she took me in even without her knowing who I was.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I really appreciate that. So I want to just shout out to moms for that. But with that being said, is when we would go to your grandparents' house, like Riverside. I was they had 3 refrigerators, man. They had all types of snacks, all type of drinks.
Mm-hmm.
I felt like I was in heaven, bro, because I was in Skid Row. Obviously we all had our struggles, and I was in Skid Row, and I was like, man, like what was it even my next meal, right? And then obviously I moved in, and then we'll go to their house, and I'm just like, man, I could, you know what I mean? Like, hey, I would even ask you, like, hey, bro, can I get some? You know what I mean? And it was like a different type of like it was a cultural shock to me because I was just so used to like survival mode. You know what I mean? But yeah, just wanted to say that, man.
yeah. I mean, I agree, and like Alex was saying too, I I do relate to that jealousy that you can have seeing people that are in different areas as you being younger, at least, because
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
um, I'm big on music, so I think there's a song with Drake. He says like jealousy is just love and hate at the same time,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
and I relate to that because when you're looking at those people that are in the position you want to be at, you love where they're at, but you hate that it's not you. So
That's a great way to put it.
yeah, so it's like even necessarily you won't even have anything against the person that's in that position.
Yeah.
It's just more of a thing that you're battling with yourself. So yeah, and I witnessed it with Pedro, and Pedro helped me keep me humble because, like I said, I've been in bad areas, but going to Skid Row on a weekly basis, and seeing where he was at, and everybody else that came through that program, I'm like, okay, they got more to worry about than me. Like I heard most of them talking about living in like extended stay type of hotels where there's like rats running through the walls, and the bathrooms are shared in the hallway and stuff like that. So even that made me grateful from where I came from because I didn't have to deal with certain kind of stuff like that. But we all have our certain struggles. My dad was an alcoholic, and I had to deal with that. My mom was basically disabled, and I had to look after her. And I have 3 younger siblings and a older sibling. So every struggle is just different. Not to take away from any others or to compare, but people go through different things. And when Pedro did come and move in with us, there was a lot of things I had to work on and wasn't helping with. Like he was mentioning, like it felt uncomfortable for him to even open the fridge and get a pizza out of it. And I'm like, bro, you live here now. Like, the food is here. We don't have a whole bunch of food at sometimes, but as long as you take what you think you deserve and make sure that there's some left over for everybody else, on some like humble beginnings type of stuff.
And was it a little bit weird at the beginning to have somebody that, I mean, you just met, like, come into your house, or how was that experience like at early on?
It was a great experience because so me and my mom are close, which is why Pedro says like he's grateful that she took him in without knowing him.
Mm-hmm.
The biggest reason why is because she trusts me, because of how close we are. So what she looks at is like, okay, Dominique is friends with him, and Dominique wants to bring him in, and me and him are close, and I trust what he wants to do to an extent because she's not gonna let me do whatever I want. Of course,
Yeah, of
I'm
course
still
not.
I'm still a kid, so she's gonna analyze it and then figure out, does this seem like it may be a good decision or not. So one thing my mom always told me is you don't know somebody until you live with them.
Yeah, that's true.
And it was one of those things I kind of heard, but I didn't understand. I was too young to understand. So that's how it was with Pedro. When he moved in, he was not the guy that I was talking to on the phone every night or every other night.
Yeah.
It was that guy we talked on the phone for about maybe an hour, and that was it. We went over our day, we read the Bible, we set goals. This guy, and it's for each other because we're sharing a room. So I'm seeing his living habits, he's seeing my living habits. And like I said, I was at the bottom of low. So I've shared a room with my brothers before, but not really for a super long time. And me and Pedro were stacked up for a minute. So yeah, it was a lot to deal with. And like I said, Pedro, the type of background Pedro came from, there was a lot of I feel like, and I hope this doesn't I hope I don't come off the wrong way, but I felt like there was a lot of damage control. It's just because of what Pedro went through. So yeah, I mean, it was a great lesson for me because it even taught me, like in relationships or with anything, most people who go to college, they have this pipe dream that they want to live with their best friend and shack up with
Yeah.
them, and it's like it really doesn't work out. And even sometimes I have to realize it as an adult. Like I had my best friend over here in my guest room. He stayed for about 3 weeks, and in my head, I'm thinking, oh, it can work out perfectly. And actually, he's here, and then we're bumping heads, and I'm like, oh man, this isn't gonna work. Like I don't even think I could rent my room to him. So yeah, with Pedro. Oh, go ahead.
No. I just wanted to say, I wanted to add to that, like, and you're right because you never really know. Obviously, like like you said, like you don't know somebody until you move in with that person. And at the time, like I had my things that like, everybody else has their thing that there are things that we go through, right? The trauma and all of that. To me, I know at the time we would argue, and it was mostly me. I'm gonna admit it was mostly me that I would like, hey, and just argue over dumb stuff, Um, sometimes we would argue about music, like or whatever, and but at the time, I didn't really see it how I see it now because now it's like, yeah, that was dumb, but it was cool because now seeing it was like a brother relationship, Like I argue with my brothers, you know what I mean? I argue with my sisters and everything, but it's all love, and I learned from you, man. I really learned from you, and this is what I want to say, bro. You were young when I moved in with you. What, you were like 17, I believe.
No, I was 15.
Crazy. That's crazy.
Yeah.
But it's crazy, bro, because even at a young age, you had that mentality, and you're one of the persons that I look up to. That's why I told them. That's why I told Alex. I was like, man, I want to have Dominique in the podcast because obviously, like, I know who you are. You're like a brother to me. But because you're wise, you bring something to the table. I remember. Yeah. I remember, with the whole life insurance and all of this and all of that, and you were plugged into, and I was like, man, this guy's super young, and he has a grown mentality. You have visions, and you wanted to do a lot of different things, you know.
Yeah.
And I really look up to that, and you still do now, you know. And you're very outgoing in that area, and that's something that I wanted in my life, and I was not jealous, like you said. I wasn't jealous. I was just like, man, I want to be like that. I want to be. I want to be. I wanted to have your mindset at the time, like, man. You're a go getter, you know. So basically, if I can ask one question, what was that? What was who inspired you, or what was it that made you want to like go after being an entrepreneur? Like, what was it?
So I think certain things kind of stem from being a kid. Being a kid in my neighborhood, yard sales were pretty popular, and my dad would put some stuff out there for me, and you know, one of the things about having kids, you can make them do what you want them to do. So instead of him sitting outside all day waiting for a customer, he would tell me, like, hey, sit outside, sell these chairs. If they ask how much, say $5. And if they negotiate with you, don't go no lower than $3. So I was doing it, and I was selling those chairs, and I was getting the money, and you know, I didn't get no cut. I brought the money back to my dad, but I was happy. I was happy I sold them. So during that time, you know, yard sales just kept going, and we were having a lot of sales. Every Saturday was a yard sale, like National Yard Sale Day. So I figured out kind of the gist of selling and negotiating. And then during that time, you know, Craigslist being on the rise, and you know, I could figure out I could sell something from my house listed on Craigslist, and when things weren't too crazy, you give them your address, they come to your house, and they give you the cash, and they buy it. So, you know, my mom used to make fun of me and say I was a crackhead because I was selling everything. And part of the reason why is because I like the reward. Like I'm reading this book right now called The Power of Habit. It's a good book, but it talks about cues that you have, and then when you get that cue in your mind, the habit is that routine that you form. And that routine is the routine you do for reward. And that's what was going on the whole time. It was, okay, my cue is I see I can sell this. I'm going to sell it, which is my routine. And my reward is going to be the money that I get and the satisfaction I get from making that sale. So that's kind of how habits form and how they stick. So doing that so many times, it eventually got to the point to where I was always motivated, and the only thing that was holding me back was my age. I'm 14 years old, and I want to have a regular 9-to-5 job, and I want to sell things and whatnot. So, eventually what happens is, you know, I turned 16, which 16, I was waiting for that age because I had everything done I needed to get my license. So as soon as I turned 16, I got my license. I had already did my permit. I had already did my driver's training, any requirements that I needed since I was under 18. I was blessed, and my grandfather blessed me with a car. You know, bought me and my brother a car, and I was just ready to start making money. My uncle had a furniture business. Me and Pedro used to run some deliveries for him, and we would just be out like late nights just delivering furniture, just Cali traffic, stuck on hours. And I bring that up all to say that one of our friends, actually, his name is Levy, he introduced me to network marketing. And I had no clue what it was. I just knew that I liked it and it was exciting. And the funny thing about this company is I know they sold more stuff, but they sold energy drinks. So I wasn't too familiar with energy drinks. I never really took caffeine like that. So when I went to one of the meetings, they have us try the energy drink. And I feel like it's a cool sales pitch because you try the energy drink and you have this caffeine. So now you're all rushed up and you're hyper. And then they're talking about being motivating and closing sales. Yeah, so hyper. Like by the time you leave the meeting, you're feeling like $1,000,000, like you're going to be a millionaire. But what was important about that is the concept of structuring a business and having residual income. So I rolled with that for a little bit. You know, network marketing companies, they start up, they fall. So I get into another network marketing company with Levy. And from there, that one falls. And I'm kind of just sitting there trying to figure out what to do. So I'm talking to my mom about it. And she tells me about her old boss, somebody that she used to work for. His name is Walter. And I knew Walter and I knew he made money. And he was just one of those guys who carried himself well. He always had a suit on. He had a walk about him. He knew how to talk. He was pulling up to your house in the S Class Benz. And what sold me was my mom was telling me about this time. I think he went in some designer store. He spread like $7,000 on some glass. And I was like, okay, like that's crazy. He spent 7 grand on some glass. So I didn't know what he did. I just knew that I wanted to do it. And I'm grateful that he took me under his wing. And I had my uncle who taught me how to work hard with labor. And I had Walter who taught me how to work smart through business.
Mm-hmm.
So I took after Walter, and me and him done many things. We started a car dealership. We were flipping cars. Initially, we were selling life insurance and retirement products. So we did that together, and basically, it just expands your mind because, like, I heard David Goggins talking about this. When you're in like a position where you want to quit, your mind doesn't grow there. It's closed, waiting for the finish line. But when you don't quit, it's forcing your mind to just expand and expand and expand because you're taking it further. And that's how I became in the business. We didn't quit. The car dealership didn't work out. Okay, we're not flipping the cars right now. We're pushing the insurance. And okay, months and months of me not getting no recruits or no clients. Okay, I'm still pushing the insurance. So you build endurance during that, and as you get into a new world, because entrepreneurship is a new world, and it's not a big road that's taken by many people. So as you get into that new road, it just expands everything for you at different things that you can look at, and that's what happened for me. So just being connected with the right person at the right time. I credited a lot to him because I was about 16, 17 when I started working with him. And for him to he had a lot of colleagues telling him don't waste your time on that kid. He's 17 years old. Nobody's going to want to meet Nobody's going to want to meet with him. Nobody's going to want to buy insurance with him. So he had a lot of people telling him he was wasting his time, but he kind of just seen something that nobody else seen. And by being able to just hang around him long enough, you pick up things. It's like they say, if you have 4 friends that are millionaires, you're going to be the 5th one just by surrounding yourself with them. So that's how it was with me being around Walter, and he's who I really credit most of my entrepreneurship to because I learned so much from him about sales and just expansion and building a system for your business and duplicating it and things of that nature. So that's how I got into entrepreneurship. To answer your question, though.
Yeah, because I remember, like when I really had moved in, like I don't, because I know you weren't really doing it, and then as soon as he came to the house, and then like you picked up a lot of things, and I started seeing like you started changing the way you dress, and then you started becoming more articulate in the way you speak, and then the way you kind of picked up your own walk, and it was very good to see you carry that on as as we grow older and as where you are now. I don't know if you want to add something, Alex, to that.
Yeah, I have 2 things. It's also great to have good mentors, as you mentioned. You had your uncle that basically taught you the hard labor, but also Walter, right? That showed you not just
Yeah.
like the ins and out of the business, but also the psychological aspect. Because a lot of people like they think business and they just think money, but a lot of people forget that there's a whole psychological aspect of it than just kind of like the physical. You feel me? Because I mean, I'm not really like a big business person, but I do understand, from like personal training, you got to find a way like to open up the sales, close the deals, right? Like And at times, I've also managed some like clothing, and then like one of the things that I remember that stood out to me was like, oh, you don't sell the clothing, you sell kind of like the idea behind the clothing. So how important is the psychological aspect in business, bro?
It's the number. I would say it's the number one thing that matters.
Mm.
Um, a lot of people don't realize, like, so I'm going to reference this book again, Power of Habit. It's a great book, but do you know how right now people freak out how you can be talking about a product and next thing you know, Facebook brings it up and, you know, Google and Facebook are listening to you and TikTok and YouTube. So these companies, and I hope this answers your question, but these companies are, you know, taking our data, but not only that, they're looking at our habits. So in the book, it talks about Target. Target has, you know how most stores have like a rewards program, sign up with your phone number, we give you points.
Mm-hmm.
That's all a mask. What they're really doing is they want to analyze and look at what you're buying. So what they do is they figure out your purchasing habits. And based off those purchasing habits, then they create coupons to send to you.
Mm.
So it got to a point to where, you know, let's be honest, who mostly shops at Target? Men or women?
Woman.
And what can, and this, I mean, we're in a new age today, but for the most part, what can women do that men can't? Get pregnant.
Oh.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to get canceled or nothing, but
Not good.
Don't
so
do it. Don't do it.
it got to the point to where they were able to predict their customers who were gonna get pregnant or who were pregnant, and then they could even predict what trimester they were in.
Oh shit.
Yeah, so it got creepy to where, you know, this one dad called Target going off. Like, you guys sent my daughter coupons for baby stuff. She's 17, you know, 16, 17. He has every reason to be going off. But then come to find out, and it takes a lot for a man to do this. He goes back and he says sorry because his daughter ended up being pregnant.
Damn.
So that's why I say, like, the psychology of it matters behind everything, because that's how these people are making their sales. They're analyzing, Target's analyzing our purchasing habits, and then they're looking at the amounts we spend.
Yeah.
Okay, are they impulsive or do they get what they need? Are they looking at purchases that are $100 every month, or do they see 1 month is 300, the next month is 700, the month after that is 200? Okay, if they see that, that means, okay, we know they're impulsive, so we're going to drip on them. We're going to keep dripping these coupons on them, and then we're going to make our profit that month that they go impulsive. Whatever that is, they get their tax return, they get a big check, you know, they got rear-ended, they get an insurance check, and they don't want to fix the car. And then, you know, that's what sells this too, is the follow-up and being consistent, because that's what happens. You're planting the seed, and then once that seed's ready to blossom, then your customer purchases. So I would say it's psychological from that aspect, but then it's even psychological from a selling standpoint.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when I'm selling insurance, life insurance and retirement products, we have a lot of different psychological scripts that we use.
Yeah.
To kind of get the client to think about certain things that they're not thinking about. You know, one thing that my partner Walter liked to do is he liked to say, do you want to see your mom naked? And people would freak out, like, what? No, I don't want to see my mom naked. And he said, well, what we do here is we set you up financially. That way, when it's her time and she can't properly take care of herself, you guys can have a caregiver here, and you won't have to take care of your mother. You won't have to see her naked. You won't have to help her in the bathroom. So what does that do? You're catching their attention through emotion, and then you're getting them emotionally connected to a problem that's not even there yet. Their mom could be thriving right now, but you're finding that problem for them. You're making them think about it, and then you're bringing them the solution. So, yeah, it all becomes psychological, you know?
Yeah, I remember reading a book. It's called The Millionaire Fastlane, and then I remember he was talking about how if you want to make a lot of money, solve a problem that most people have. And I believe now with social media, as you explained, not just getting the analytics of what we're searching for and basically like the age group, like now you could specifically target, like as you mentioned, like a certain niche, and you could basically find out what type of problems people have. And I'm pretty sure like a lot of these companies probably sell that information to bigger companies or people that are inventing new designs or new inventions, basically to put out there, or at least to try out in the market.
Yeah. And quick question: do you know when that book was written?
I'm not sure, bro. I have my copy somewhere in my room.
What would you say? Like it was older or was it newer?
I believe it was
Like,
newer. I believe it was newer, bro. It was more on the newer side because apparently the guy made money off of selling limousines. So basically, he made like a company where like I guess rich people or people with money or people that just need a limousine in general would basically look up like limousine renting companies all over the states, and basically that's kind of like how the man made his money.
okay, yeah. The reason I asked that is because that's always been the saying: is figure out a problem everyone has and become a solution, and that's how your business thrives. But in today's society, you also got to think about this: how what service or value can I bring to make somebody more lazy?
Mm,
That's how a lot of companies are making money right now. Uber, DoorDash, Lyft, you know, Amazon Prime. You don't want to wait 5 days. You're on Prime. You get it in 1 or 2 days.
true.
So that's also a big thing in today's society because it's like most things that you look at right now. If it can make somebody more lazy, it's going to skyrocket, and then the business takes off.
Yeah.
So that's why I was just curious about when the book was written. Because yeah, it's always going to be what's the problem, how can we solve it.
Yeah.
But nowadays, it's also what can I do to make this person more lazy.
Yeah, or in business terms, make their life easier.
Yeah, exactly. Make their life easier, and it goes both ways because you're making somebody's life easier, but then you're also providing a job to somebody. You got that person outdoor dashing 9 o'clock at night. They're the ones stop being lazy, grabbing your food when you want to stay at home. So yeah, it goes to both ends of the spectrum.
Like, stop being lazy, turn on your car, and go pick up your food. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. Or even go to the grocery store. Make that habit every time you think about getting fast food. Okay, I'm about to go to the grocery store, even if I'm going to buy a deli sandwich. At least
No,
I'm not going to be overcharged.
but it's crazy though, because my friends make this mock about. I have a friend that lives with me, right? And she doesn't like going out a lot, so she'll just order a lot, like from like she'll order from Walmart and they'll deliver it. So like a lot of stores would deliver, you know. And I was like a curbside, and they'll deliver whatever. And I'm just like, wow, that's crazy. How like if people ask, as personal shoppers, like they'll shop for you. You shop online and they bring you your food and put your market, your door. You know.
Yeah, and that makes me realize too, it's not always laziness. I mean, for the most part, it's laziness. But think about the real successful people that, that was one thing Walter always said. Like, he tried not to do anything that was average, like laundry, cleaning his house. He's like, I make $300 an hour when I'm on this phone. So the more I stay on this phone and I can pay people to do this other stuff, then that makes me more valuable and that makes me more money even by the time I pay these people. Wow. So that's another point of it. And that's what, every business person will get to that point to where they're successful enough in their business so they value their time enough. Because like I said, we all share the same 24 hours. Yeah. So they value their time enough to know that they can't be distracted with things that don't have importance.
Yeah.
Wow.
Why is it important to me to go grab my groceries if I can do Instacart? If I can have somebody bring it here, now I'm helping the economy because I'm giving somebody a delivery, I'm paying them, I'm tipping them, and here I am in my office and I'm on the phones and I'm making sales. So, it also goes both ways, but like we said, for the most part, it's 85, 90% of the people being lazy. And then that difference is the successful people who utilize it in a good way.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah, that makes perfect sense, bro. It's like, why would you spend, I don't know, an hour, 2 hours meal prepping when you can use that same time to have somebody deliver your groceries? And as you mentioned, still be on the phone making sales, still racking up money. So yeah, I mean, that's basically spot on, bro. Like, I mean, you would rather like spend more time and be a little bit more valuable by actually working on your business or on your service than having to spend, that hour, 2 hours, doing something that, I mean, like I don't want to say that it's completely pointless because some of us don't really have the luxury of like not just like having somebody do our deliveries or do our laundry, but yeah, for the most part, from like the making money aspect part of it, yeah, it's kind of pointless. You get me?
Yeah, and you can always, that was one thing my mentor really honed in on me is always figuring out a way. So, you know, if you can't do the Instacart, Walmart has it to where you can pick your groceries and then you just pull up and they put it in your trunk.
Mm,
Even that shaves off an hour to 2 hours of grocery shopping. And
true.
one thing he did was he had a guest room, and I live in Las Vegas, so I use my guest room for people that want to come visit because
Hmm.
you have a lot more money to spend when you're not spending it on a hotel and you're staying with a friend. But he had a guest room, and he had somebody live in his guest room rent free in exchange that they cook the meals, they clean the house, and they get the laundry. So, some people might think off the top, like, well, I don't have $2,000 to pay to somebody every month to do everything I need them to do. Well, you might just need to have that extra room in your house. Free rent is almost psychological because you can figure somebody could rent my room for $750 a month. But if I tell them that, hey, you don't have to pay rent, but I need you to do this, that, and the other, they're most likely going to take it because when we think of rent, that's normally the biggest expense somebody
Yeah.
has. But they're not thinking, hey, this work that I'm doing could probably make $2,000 a month if I was doing it full time, and here I am trading it for a $750 room. you know, so
That's true.
that could be the crazy part about it. But as long as you're resourceful, you can get a lot of things done.
yeah.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, bro.
Yeah.
And how important do you think it is, bro, to have also like partners and people in your life as well that also have like the same ambition and probably like the same entrepreneur mind that you have, bro?
Yeah, it's huge because there's a old book that almost everybody knows. I'm not sure if you guys heard of it, but it's called Think and Grow Rich,
Mm-hmm.
and that's one thing that it talks about. It talks about mastermind groups and getting together so often with that mastermind group, and of course, masterminding into the whole deal. So it's very important. Even Andrew Tate talks about it. He's like, if you can find those 4 friends that are just on the same mission and it's ready to do whatever you're ready to do, you guys can conquer the world. So I think it's important because, like I said, I just had my friend here. He was, hanging out with me for a while, and we started hitting the gym together. And when you're kind of working out by yourself, you might be slacking off, and you might be like, okay, at least I made it today, and
Yeah.
I'm gonna do one less workout. I'm gonna do a 4-4 instead of a 5-5, and I'm gonna put my comfortable weight. But when you have somebody else in there, my friend is bigger than me. I'm 5'10". I'm reducing body fat right now, so I'm 195. My friend is like 230, 6'1" or something, so he's like an ox. And I'm seeing him push up crazy weight, so I'm like, you know what? I need to step my game up and try to push up some crazy weight. And I start pushing up crazy weight, and then I'm realizing that, oh shit, I can do this.
Yeah.
And that's why you need those people around. Like for me, I've always had issues with my legs as far as lifting heavy. Like most people can lift like their heaviest weight with their legs.
Yeah.
So now that, I've been on a new program doing 75 hard, mental fitness program, and I've been walking every day. And by the time I went to the gym with him, I was hitting PRs that I never thought I could hit. And then he realized it, and he gave me, a fist bump at the end of it because he's like, man, you've been keeping up with me. Even to the point to where we're on the leg press, and he puts 8 plates on there. And I'm looking at him like, bro, I can't do 8 plates. Like, I can do 2 plates. I can't do 8. And he's like, no, it's just go on there. Like, you got it. I'm right here. I'm going to make sure you don't get hurt. and I jump on it and I go for 10 reps. So we set these limitations on ourselves because your brain is always looking to protect you and keep you comfortable, and keep you in that comfort zone. So the minute you start thinking about doing something crazy, your brain and your body goes back to no, stick with this. This is what we know. This is where it's safe. Mm-hmm. So you need that person to challenge you to get you out of that comfort zone, and then keep hitting new milestones of what becomes a new comfort. So that's why it's so important to have those people in your circle with anything, spiritual, with your mind, with your fitness, with your finances, and with your family. Every aspect of your life, it's good to have those people that are on the same mission as you, because they're going to help you get further in each aspect of your life and to be able to start crushing it. So I think that's the biggest thing. And I mean, I know not everyone's religious, but when God made Adam, he realized that humans weren't fine alone. They weren't good by themselves. And he gave Adam Eve. And that's what it comes down to. We're really just not meant to be alone. And even the church promotes it, going to Bible studies and going to church as a whole every Sunday or Saturday, because you can just go a lot further when you have people with you. So I think it's a main thing to do in any aspect of your life that you're trying to grow in. You're going to need those people around you, and you want to make sure that you're the lowest value house on that block. You want to make sure all those houses in that circle are way higher than yours, because it's by default they're going to bring you up. Mm-hmm. Makes sense. If you're the highest one in the group, they're going to bring you down. Yeah. So, it's easier for that person, and even in relationships, if you have a girl that's not in the gym and you guys wake up in the morning, you're trying to go to the gym at 4:30 in the morning, and she's trying to keep you in the warm bed. What do you think's more likely to happen? Is the average person still going to get up, go to the gym at 4:30, or are they going to stay in the warm bed and sleep in?
They're going to cuddle, brother.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like if you're the highest one in that circle, it's most likely that the rest of that circle is going to bring you down to their level.
No, and I totally agree. Like, I remember when I said this on one of the podcasts where I was going to the gym. I had a gym membership, but I would only go like once a month or twice a month. And then my friend moved in, and he's a gym freak. And this guy goes to the gym every day. And he was like, let's go to the gym. So I started, he's the one that put me in pre-workout and creatine and supplements and all of that, right? But at first I was skeptical because I was like, no, that's crazy. No. So, because I was like, I don't know what I'm putting in my body, But and then he kind of like gave me that push, go to the gym every day, right? And then I had another friend that would run, and then I would see videos of David Goggins running. I'm like, I want to start running. And then I have friends that are spiritual, that go to church and all of this and all of that, and are believers. And I'm like, okay, surround myself with them. And like you said, like if you surround with yourself with four millionaires, billionaires, you'll be the fifth one. And so it's always good to surround, like you said, it's always good to surround yourself with people that obviously want to see you do better. I have friends at work that this girl at work, she's like, man, like, I like your mindset. I love what you do here at work. You do a lot. You deserve more. Whatever. She's like, here, I got this book. You should read it. It's called Relentless. And then my friend Gary that we had on the podcast before, he's like, bro, I'm gonna say, what's your address? I'm gonna send you some books. He sent me 3 books. And I'm just like, wow, you know what I mean? And it's always good to surround yourself with people that not just elevate themselves, but elevate you too. If you're in a team and you don't give them, like, just say the 3 of us are in a team and I don't give you my knowledge, right? Then we're not going to propel to the next levels. Just like you, if you have a lot of knowledge and you don't share it with us, then obviously you're going to stay on top, and we're going to stay basically stagnant. You know what I mean? We're going to stay. We're not going to be flowing, basically. But if everybody is in the same page, then we can definitely, elevate together. And and like I said this before, man, I see that in you. You have that drive. Both of you guys have that drive, and I'm grateful that I'm surrounded by people that are driven, because it drives me too. You know, I see you doing deadlifts, and I'm just like, okay, deadlifts, and then I see you doing your things, and I see you doing, you know, it pushes obviously each other to do great. So I'm really my circle, man, went from knowing a lot of people, or people knowing me, and from like I only have a small group of people where I don't even go out anymore. I just stay home, read, write, whatever, and just talk to you on the phone or talk to you on the phone. We do podcasts and all of that, but we push each other to do great, and that's something that you know.
Yep, I agree, bro.
Yeah, the cool part also, that what's cool about like hanging out with like friends or like people that are on the same wavelength and are on the same mindset as you, is the fact that there's a little bit of pressure. I don't know about you guys, but I like being around, like Dominique said, like around people that are way better than you, because of the fact that that's the only way that you're gonna grow. You get me? It's like, I remember I was hearing GSP talk about it, like if you guys are gonna sprint, be like the slowest one, because of the fact that you're gonna get better, because eventually you're gonna have to catch up to them, and it's just the fact of the matter is that you need that kind of like inner competition as well, because that's kind of like what gives you, I don't want to really say the rage, but it gives you, it like puts a fire under your ass, bro, and you're just like ready to go. It's like when I'm in a gym, bro, as you mentioned, and I don't have anybody like looking at me. Maybe some days if I'm not feeling it, I'll slack off a little bit, but let's just say I'm with a friend or somebody that's a lot stronger than me, I'm just like on the bench press being like, I'm not a bitch, trying to press it up. So I like that, bro. I like the fact that we're like in a space where it's like Pedro mentioned, one of us brings this, one of us brings that, and we just kind of like feed off of each other and just try not to stay stagnant.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that's definitely true. I mean, one of my other mentors I follow on Instagram, his name is Ed Milet, but he has a good analogy that we operate like thermostats in your house. You know, if you set yourself to 75 degrees, you're gonna if you're at 60 degrees, you're gonna heat yourself back up to 75 because that's what you're set at, and that's the temperature you want. Let's say you get to 80 degrees, and things are going kind of well for you. You're gonna end up cooling yourself back to 75 because that's what you're used to. Like I noticed when I was a kid, anytime I got money, I was quick to blow it really fast, and I never knew why. But when I think about it, it's because I was used to not having money. That was my comfort spot. So when I got money, even though it was a good thing, if I got $20 or something, that's a great thing. But that was higher than what I was. So I had to get rid of it the same day to cool myself back to what I was used to.
Oh,
And that's with anything in life. You could you could be at 90 degrees when you're normally at 75. Things are going well, but then you start slacking off, whether that's in fitness, business, whatever it is. Let's say you're killing it in business, you did 10, 20 grand that month. That's way over than what you expect of yourself. So the next couple months, you start slacking off. You're not making as many phone calls. You're going out to eat more. You're spending a little bit more money.
Yeah.
At the gym, you start seeing results, and you start posing in the mirror, and you're like, "Whoa, this looks different. Like this is crazy. I can't believe how my body looks." Okay, I can eat that ice cream tonight now, or I can go get those Girl Scout cookies tonight because I've been doing pretty good. I can reward myself, and you end up slacking back down. So that's why you have to really stay self-conscious of where your mental thermostat is at. Because if you're not changing it and you're staying at 75 degree, you're only going to take what you think you deserve. If there's a pizza out between three of us that we're sharing, you're only going to take what you think you deserve from that pizza. And that's what it becomes in life with that thermostat scenario. Because whatever you set yourself to, if you fall under, and let's say you're not doing it good in the gym, you haven't won in weeks, that's not like you, you've been eating like crap. Okay, I'm going to start tightening up around here. I'm cutting out the soda again, and I'm cutting out the junk food, and I'm going to exercise twice a day and stuff like that. So then you heat yourself back up to 75 degrees. So you really have to be self-conscious of what your thermostat is set at. make sure it's set at the right temperature for you, and then that's how that's how you play at life.
That's definitely good metaphor analogy because, like, there's like I said, I was running a lot, and I was working out twice a day. I wasn't used to that. So I was consistent with running, and I was consistent with working out twice a day. And like you said, like I wasn't used to it, so I just went back to working out one time a day. You know, and I told myself like, what am I doing? Like, what am I doing? I need to get back into the gym. But I do go one day. Like one day, like I try to go like 5 days out of the week, but still, though, like I went back under my thermostat. Like, it's like it's a fight. It's you versus you. Like, man, I want to get there, but I'm used to working out one time a day. Like, man, like there's times, bro. Like I'm just like in the mornings before church, my friend that lives with me, hey, let's go get some donuts, and I'm like, bro, like I'm trying to shred. And he's like, bro, but you're gonna work it out at the gym, and I have to look at the calories so much this donut has. I'm just like, man, that means I have to run 2 miles. You know what I mean? And then,
Yeah.
and he's like, but he's like, you kill it at the gym. You work hard at the gym. You can knock it out. But I'm just like, dang. But I'm not gonna say I don't eat the donut because then I'll be a liar because I do. Or I don't eat the pizza because I do. I'm not gonna say that. But it's just it's one of those things where my body, I'm just used to eating like that, and it's hard because I'm like, I'm gonna meal prep. I tell myself I'm only gonna eat salad and or I'm gonna stay with a soda and I drink it every weekend, but I try to not even drink it on the weekend. So it's a battle. It's a battle within yourself to become better. But what is that? What do you think? What do you think? And maybe both of you guys can answer this. Like, what do you think is that one thing that will not bring you basically down in your thermostat? Like, what is that thing that could break that cycle of, and obviously discipline and consistency, but what is like that one thing like, okay, I'm gonna stay up here now, not lower. You know what I mean?
You want to take a shot at it, Alex?
Yeah, I'll take a shot at it. I think that I remember reading Dean Gracios, I believe that was his name, his book, and he talked about just your whys, like why do you do what you do, or why do you want what you want. And basically, what he talked about is just a little bit on habits, bro, and how to like what's like the root cause of like why you want to specifically change it, or like what are you willing to do. And basically, all he did, bro, was let's just say like you want a better body, right? Like he said, like why do you want it? You get me? And like he kept on breaking it why and why and why and why and why and why until you get to your root cause. Like once you get like to the main root on why exactly it is that you want to change your life around, or why you want to move or change your body, or why do you want to do a specific thing, then that's where you find out what your real motives are. That's kind of like the same way that I look at it. If you find like your real motives, like why exactly it is that you want to change something about yourself or create a new habit, I think that if you find that little root cause, like you'll be
Yeah.
okay, because that's exactly like the point of it. Like that's exactly the reason why you're doing it, bro. Because a lot of people will just be like, "Oh yeah, like I want to work out just to look good," but why though? Like there's always like a deeper level of that.
Yeah. And before you answer, Dominique, let me just throw this in there. So the reason why I asked this, I was trying to ask this question, is because obviously I'm losing weight. And the people at work tell me, "Oh, you're losing weight. You're losing weight." Obviously, I put in the work, so I know. But in my mind, I'm like, I'm losing a lot of weight because people are telling me that I'm losing weight, but I eat like crap. You know what I mean? So that kind of like feeds my mind, like, oh, I can eat like crap and I'll still lose weight. You know what I mean? But like,
Whoa. Oh, my bad. No, go ahead.
oh no, I was done. I was just waiting for your response.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I'm not gonna lie. Like, I'll still eat that donut, bro. Like, because this is what I do. Like, I count calories. So everyone has their own method. But if that donut's 500 calories, then I don't take any days off, and I do 2 workouts a day, at least 45 minutes. And then for weight training, I try to do at least 3 days a week of weight training. So I'm constantly looking at it on my watch, trying to see what I'm burning for the day. And then if I have that 500 calories to eat that apple fritter and I'm within calories for the day, I'm going to eat it. So it's like Alex said, your why has to go in there. So what's going to stop me from eating that junk? It's probably going to be health issues, if I'm being honest with you. If it starts affecting my health, then that's going to be a scary why for me. And I'm like, okay, like I'm not going to mess with that. But to answer your initial question, on figuring out your thermostat is, Alex says on it as well. I'm a firm believer in right now your habits, because your habits is the whole way you live your life. Like, and it trips me out. I keep referencing this book, Power of Habit, but people are out here having kids and not realizing that they can shape the habits of their kids.
Yeah.
They can reform their own habits, create new ones to block out the bad habits, and then they can have kids and just start planting all these great habits in them. But you have to figure it out, if it's going to be that you want to do that second workout every day, you got to figure out what that cue is. So let's say the cue is to do the first one really early. How are you going to cue yourself? You set your alarm for a certain time, and then you set that routine. I know it's hard for me to wake up, so I'm going straight to the sink. I'm splashing myself with cold water. And not only that, the night before, I'm having my running shoes and my running outfit laid out. Because you also got to think about that. How much time does the average person take to figure out what they're going to work out in, or what they're going to wear on their run or whatnot? So you have that all laid out. So now you know your cue is the alarm, and you go splash your face, cold water, wake up, and then you have your running shoes right there, and you have your workout outfit right there. So okay, I'm putting this on. You go and you do your run. Now, what can you reward yourself with? What's the reward? After the run is the reward that you just burned 500 calories, and you did it in the beginning of the day, and, your heart's racing now, and you feel the cold air through your lungs. Is that the reward you get from it? Or is the reward you get is feeling accomplished, that you're way ahead of your day and in your morning while people are still asleep? But whatever that reward is going to keep you into forming that habit to where you don't have to think about it anymore. Like, they did this test on monkeys. What they did is they had the monkeys point out a couple different shapes, and when they hear a sound, which is the cue, they point out the shape. After that shape, the reward is they get some grape juice. And it shows how quickly they form that habit to where now they hear the sound, because what it does is it starts looking at your brain levels. So now they hear that sound. As soon as they hear that sound, it's so much of a habit that their serotonin levels already raised, because they're already tasting that juice in their mouths. They pick the shape, and then the juice comes. So they can already see the reward way before it comes. And then that's how it starts forming into your new habits, because you're on that run, you're halfway through. But let's say you reward yourself with fresh squeezed orange juice. You're halfway through, and now you're excited to come home and drink that fresh squeezed orange juice. Or, you finish that run, that means you get to take a warm shower. If you don't do that run, that means you have to take a cold shower.
Yeah,
and it's just different things like that. Even the cold showers is what will help you to stop negotiating with yourself. Because when you do that cold shower, when I do my cold shower, I say, Alexa, set a timer for 2 minutes. As soon as she says, your timer 2 minutes is starting now, I know my ass has to be in that cold shower, or else I'm going to mess up my time frame, which means I have no time to negotiate with myself. It's like, okay, jump straight into that cold shower. So I feel those are the things that's going to help shape you to figure out what your temperature is on your thermostat, what it needs to be set at, and what habits you need to reprogram. Because your body's going to rely on your habits. Even when you're old and you have dementia or something, you're going to put on your shoes the same way. If you do left sock, left shoe, right shoe. If you live in the same house and you're taking walks outside, you might not know how to describe how to get to your house, but you're gonna, sorry, I just hit the arrow on my desk to go up, but, you're gonna see that stop sign at the corner where the house has dead grass, and then that's going to cue your head. Okay, make that left right here. So then that's routine, and then what's reward? You're going towards your house. So I think that's the biggest thing is just figuring out how to reprogram your bad habits and replacing them with better habits that serve you, because that's what's going to carry you on the days that you don't feel like going to the gym or whatever it is. It's going to be your habit that's going to carry you. Even if it's your body, if you wake up late and your body just feels the need to be in the gym and to hit those weights, that's going to be the habit that's going to get you to the gym that day.
That's true. Because like I said last time, like the days that we don't feel the days that we don't feel like days that you know that you're disciplined,
Yeah.
And then like you said, like if you do it out of routine, if you do it out of once you do it more than 30 days, it just becomes a routine for you. It becomes a habit that obviously is a healthy habit,
So look, guys, I think that basically will conclude our hour, bro. And yeah, honestly, like I always tell Pedro this every time we end our podcast, bro. But now you being here and with your entrepreneur mind, what's one of the healthiest habits anyone could actually have with money, bro?
Oh, with money?
With money, bro.
That's a good question because it's more of a it's more of I say it's more of an opinionated question because everyone has different financial goals.
Mm-hmm.
So you gotta figure out what someone's success level is. Like my grandfather was homeless all his life on Skid Row, and he was technically successful because he told himself he never worked for the white man, and like he didn't want to live with people and he didn't want to pay no bills. So the average person could be on the street and look at him like, man, that guy's down bad, but technically he's successful to his standards. So I think it depends on every stage of somebody's life, whether they're building, whether they're maintaining, or whether they're planning retirement. I know people who plan aggressive retirements to where they don't do nothing in their early years, but stack and invest. But I can say what's worked for me is one is being broke, learning how to deal with a small amount of money and seeing how far you can go with it. That really creates self-discipline and it prepares you for when more money comes in. Because as they say, if you're bad with a small amount of money, you're going to be bad with a big amount of money. Mm-hmm. So, and not everyone's going to be broke, but I'm just saying, the people that are broke, if you can figure out how to work your money right now, you're going to have a head start when you do come into a larger portion of money. And figuring out a system that works for you. So there's a lot of different formulas. The one I like is that out of 100% of your income, me being Christian, I recommend the first 10% going to your tithes to your church. So that leaves you with 90. Then I recommend investing 25% towards long-term investments. So that means something that you're not going to touch, 401k, whether it's real estate, something that you're going to feed that 25% into, and you're not going to mess with it. You're not going to touch it at all. I'd recommend another 25% going to short-term investments. So short-term investments basically being that, whether you're looking at flipping cars or trading stocks or basically something that you can get in with a small amount of cash and try to create another income stream with. And then the other 40% would just be your bills and your discretionary income that, you would like to spend your money however you want. Now, it's really hard. Most people cannot have their bills at 40% of their income. It's down near impossible. But once you can get to that formula, you'll be cool. And I also missed a step. You also want to keep 36 months of your savings. So I would say 50% going in your savings. Once you have that savings numbers goal, then you can diversify it from 25% short-term investments, 25% long-term investments. Once you have that amount you need, keep it in a high-yield savings account. And then I also recommend putting all your bills on auto pay on a credit card that's going to give you cash back. So that's basically what I recommend for somebody who's trying to build and somebody who's trying to maintain and get ahead. But it all depends on what financial stage that person might be in and what they're trying to get done. But that's kind of some basic rules. If you have a spending habit, try to pay cash. Pull out the cash that you need, put it in envelopes, because if you go into the store with $100, you can only spend 100. If you go on with your card, you can overcharge, you can put it on your credit card. So just little steps. You got to identify what's bad. Never be too bold to ask for advice. I got some advice on Reddit recently. They chewed my ass up, but it was cool. They had some good advice, and I learned a lesson. And we're not always going to be perfect in our finances, but as long as you can identify things that you're doing wrong, and if you can seek advice and things like that, you're always going to keep moving forward.
Sure. Well,
So, anything you want to say, Pedro, before we close out?
I learned something new today. Definitely with the finances and everything. I know you've always been good with that. But I just want to say that I really learned obviously more about handling finances, and what's good is to FaceTime you and to see you again, and most importantly, man, is to have you a part of this podcast, because I really admire what you do, man. Like, you are, in my eyes, you're like a brother, but you're a leader. And I'm just, honestly, I'm blessed to just have you a part of the podcast, man, and share your heart out. So thank you.
Yeah, I appreciate that, and I thank you guys for having me. Alex, I think you're a cool dude. I think you're well spoken, and I think you narrate the podcast pretty well. So I say keep that up, and you and Pedro are doing something pretty cool with the podcast. So I appreciate you guys having me on.
Yeah, bro. I just want to say thank you. Pedro actually is recently choosing our guests, and he told me a lot of good stuff about you, bro. So I'm like, yeah, bro. Let's have everybody on. Everybody that has like good insight, good knowledge, like bring them on. And from the looks of it, bro, you have a lot of knowledge and a lot of things that we could take away personally. And anybody that's listening to us could also, probably use in their day to day life, bro. So I'm honored, bro. I'm honored to meet you, and I'm honored to have you on here, bro.
Yeah, I appreciate that, bro.
Yeah, man. So hopefully in the near future, bro, we could get you on another episode if that's cool with you.
Yeah, definitely. Just let me know, and whatnot. I mean, like I said, it's been a pleasure. It's been a good conversation. So, I enjoyed it.
All right, man. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
All right, you guys take care.
Peace, guys.
Likewise.